Hey there YouTube, Crispy Charizard here, and today I will be continuing on from my very last video, in which I discussed and pretty much just generalized every Pokemon that is known or rumored to be extraterrestrial in origin. But that video brought up some interesting questions which I was not satisfied with leaving unanswered. So today I will be discussing the problem of, if aliens are from other planets, then how can they be descended from Mew? That is, if Mew is the ancestor of all known common Pokemon, then where did the aliens come from? The fact that aliens exist has been pretty much established, and that's not the issue. We've already confirmed that some Pokemon count as aliens, but today we will discuss options for explaining how that can be possible. Every Pokemon is supposed to be originally from Mew or Arceus, or the unknown. In discussing this theory, we might actually discover that we've been defining them as aliens incorrectly. It's possible that the secret of extraterrestrial Pokemon isn't actually that they're originally from other planets at all. Whether it be anime or video games, we have Pokemon like the Clefairy line, LGM, Behem, and Deoxys, just to name a few. There are plenty of others. And people have just gone with it. They're Pokemon that happen to come from other worlds, one way or another. Some are intelligent and build spaceships, and some by accident. Not to mention interdimensional Pokemon, but that's not the point of this video. And most people have trouble distinguishing, like, how to define Pokemon and how to define alien. If the Pokemon Clefairy is from another planet, how is it still a Pokemon and not an alien? Those are not two independent things. They could be both, possibly. Obviously, Clefairy is both a Pokemon and an alien, if it is an alien at all. But we should not be so quick to assume that any of these aliens are actually 100% authentic aliens. What I'm simply theorizing is the possibility, with some speculation, that any Pokemon that is considered an alien might not be 100% originally from anywhere else other than the Pokemon's Earth planet, as we know it. But my theory, which I'm not completely saying is correct, I'm just saying it's one option. So this one option is that they all originally are descended from Mew on Earth, and at some point in the ancient past, they developed spaceships, went to other worlds, and recently, having come back for the first time, are viewed as aliens. When it comes to Pokemon like Clefairy and Behem, this seems plausible. I mean, there's no way to completely deny that they simply are coming back after having left, let's say, centuries ago. It's not completely impossible. We discussed that these Pokemon are all descended from Mew, and that they simply left Earth centuries ago and are simply returning recently to be viewed as extraterrestrials, which they, in a sense, are, but not really, because they're just coming back after being gone for a while. This option, the first one, does not fit with Deoxys. Deoxys does not appear to be a UFO controlling extraterrestrial like Clefairy and Behem. Those seem to have some sort of spaceship societies and civilization-like, and they're just stereotypical aliens like you see in the movies. Deoxys, however, is said to be a virus that was experimented on by humans after crashing to Earth on meteors. Either that, or it comes as you see it, as seen in the Delta episode of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where it immediately comes out of a meteor that has been described as targeting Earth almost intelligently, like it wasn't just on a random course. It seemed to be heading for Earth intentionally. Just to name a piece of the dialogue from the Delta episode. Now, that aside, Deoxys does not fit the first option because it seems like it's coming back for the first time. So I shouldn't say it's coming back like the others. But there's another thing I'd like to point out. Deoxys is said to be from a virus, a mutated virus that humans experimented on. And the thing, if you know biology about viruses, is that they are not 100% classified as living. Out of all the groups of living things, and all the kingdoms of life, and, plants and animals, or Pokemon. Viruses are unique because they do not meet every requirement required to be a living thing, because viruses reproduce by infecting other cells. At least it does in real life. If we're going to assume that viruses in the Pokemon world are the same, then it has its own unique classification. If it is actually based on a virus, then you could almost say that it's not an actual, or at least not the same as other Pokemon. So if my first theory option was true, all Pokemon are descended from Mew, and those that are deemed extraterrestrials are simply returning home after being gone for the longest of times. I still do not know where Deoxys fits into this theory option. I only brought up its unique virus-like classification because I want to find out where it fits. Is it descended from Mew? Now, normally, I would never classify any of the legendary or mythical Pokemon as being descended from Mew, because the only reason they are legendary or mythical is that they are so unique and deity-like. They represent something in nature, and they are not supposed to be descended from Mew, any of them. With the exception of Mewtwo, of course, being a clone. What I mean to say is that I expect every legendary mythical Pokemon to have been created by Arceus himself, or at least the Unknown, as Arceus I believe is. What I'm saying is that if the Unknown created Arceus, and Arceus created most, if not all, other legendaries and mythical Pokemon, then that just remains the common Pokemon, which you find, like, just splattered around the world, to be descended genetically from Mew. Now, most people seem to believe that Pokemon seem to have, like, evolved with a Darwinian evolutionary process. But I completely disagree with that. I think that every species of Pokemon has always been the way they are, and were created as they are from Mew, which used its transforming abilities. Everyone should know that Mew can transform like a Ditto. Which brings up the theory that Ditto is a failed attempt to clone Mew, and is sort of like a Mew 1.5, if you will. You know, a prelude to Mewtwo, a failed attempt of Mewtwo. Since, you know, Mew and Ditto share so many characteristics, I might discuss this in a completely different video, because I'm digressing again. Anyway, people believe that Pokemon evolved one from another, and there are lots of missing links. But, of course, I believe that Pokemon were created by Mew through, basically, genetic transformation. It would transform into something that it wanted to by completely altering its DNA, which it can do, and it basically invented from scratch every single Pokemon species. It just made every template on its own. At least that's what I believe. Back to explaining how every legendary and mythical Pokemon is somehow created by Arceus in one way or another. Where does that leave Deoxys? It is an alien virus from another planet, is what they say. Now, it's possible that being a virus, which is a strange classification that is not completely alive, doesn't help, because Deoxys obviously is alive. The way it is now is obviously a Pokemon. It can be caught in a Pokeball. It is living. So it is not a virus anymore. It's just that it's a mutated virus. But where does that leave its origin? And that brings up my second theory option, which is a little bit far-fetched, but I think is also plausible, like my first theory. The second theory option is that when Arceus created the world, along with more than one Mew, possibly, in order to start filling up the Earth with many different species of Pokemon that can mate with each other and their own kinds, he also possibly created other worlds other than Earth with their own Mews. And these other Mews, whether it be the same as our Mew or a different type of Mew, had their offspring somehow be Pokemon like Deoxys and possibly Clefairy, LGM, Behem, and others. That means that these two theories are exclusive, at least in the most part. Either aliens are coming home after having left a long time ago, in which case they're not actually aliens, or Mews were planted on other planets in order to create alien Pokemon from our point of view. Actually, Deoxys does not fit perfectly with either of these theories. Personally, I like my first theory when it comes to Pokemon like Clefairy and Behem. I like the idea that they just were extra intelligent and at some point created a spacecraft to explore other worlds. The idea that these alien Pokemon, in quotation marks, aren't actually aliens, it feels almost poetic. The fact that they are still offspring of Mew, that just chose to explore the stars, and have only returned recently. Something about that idea appeals to me. On the other hand, I don't have much evidence. I don't know if I can be backed up in saying this theory. On the other hand, the idea that Mew, or some other version of Mew, was put on other planets by Arceus is also plausible, but I'm not going to say that for sure because, well then, wouldn't that suggest that all these other planets have lots of species that somehow aren't discovered at all? Other Pokemon? Other, say, sentient humans? Speaking of sentience, isn't it strange how Pokemon like Clefairy and BHM and LGM are intelligent enough to build these spacecraft, which so far has been confirmed by the anime and suggested by the video games, while humans are still, I don't know, 21st century, early 21st century level of technology? I mean, humans are intelligent and all, but they haven't built this level of spacecraft like the Clefairy and the BHM are at least rumored to have done. If there is a hypothetical other world with their own humans and their own Pokemon and their own myths of Mew and stuff like that, and this is somehow fitting into my second theory, wouldn't it be strange that their Pokemon, BHM and Clefairy, are smart enough to build spacecraft, but their humans aren't? And the reason I say that is because if their humans, or alien humans, were smart enough to build spacecraft, you could almost assume that they would have, and we would have made contact with them. Oh wait! What about Mr. Bonding? Mr. Bonding, if you remember, was introduced in Pokemon X and Y. And then in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, his origin was somehow revealed. If you don't remember, in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which on the timeline takes place many years before X and Y, there was a boring old man who was introduced to some interesting, colorful men by your character in Hoenn. The colorful, interesting men, who all said certain stories and stuff like that, who you met in that Pokemon Center, bonded with that boring man, and they combined to form Mr. Bonding. Mr. Bonding, then years later, you met in Lumio City. No, not in Lumio City. You met him all over Kalos, in the hotel rooms, in X and Y, where he would give you O-Powers. After Mr. Bonding gave you O-Powers, years later you meet him in Sun and Moon, lost in the desert and wanting to find a Pokemon, depending on your version, Solrock or Lunatone, which technically are also alien or extraterrestrial Pokemon in our list of possible extraterrestrial Pokemon that I forgot to mention. After you show him one, which is only possible after Pokebank came out, he thanks you for showing him that Pokemon and teleports into the sky. And this man, Mr. Bonding, who is a fusion of a bunch of other men, isn't a Pokemon, but he is extraterrestrial by all intents and purposes. It's curious, but the video games have completely confirmed that there are extraterrestrial beings, intelligent ones who are not Pokemon. You would think that this event would have been a bigger deal because extraterrestrial beings that aren't Pokemon have never been done before now. And to think that they've been planning this since X and Y. I don't even remember when that came out. It was so long ago. So we have confirmed that aliens exist, and not all of them are Pokemon. The story of Mr. Bonding is crazy if you actually wake up and realize that he is an alien. I'm going to conclude with that both of my theories are still just theories, hypotheses. I cannot confirm or deny either one at this moment, because if the extraterrestrials happen to not be descended from you, then where do they come from? Just like the Pokemon that are always on this planet. They come in all shapes and sizes. They're not all completely nice, but they're not all completely evil. And they're not all completely cuddly. And they're not all completely Pokemon. But what they are is completely alien. And yet, we still know and love them, like we would our own Pokemon. But where did they come from? And when more evidence happens to appear in the future, we will pounce on it and try to figure out this mystery. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for next time.